Most people think the 2026 BMW R1300 GS is just a small upgrade. I don't. What surprised me wasn't the engine size or the tech, it was how different the bike feels compared to the previous GS. On paper, it sounds like evolution. In person, it feels like BMW decided to reset the personality of their flagship. When I compared it to the older R1250 GS, the first thing I noticed was how much tighter and more compact the R1300 GS feels. It doesn't carry its weight the same way. It feels more centered, less top-heavy, and that changes everything when you're moving slowly or navigating traffic. Most people miss this because they focus on horsepower numbers. Yes, the new 1300cc Boxer engine is stronger, it pulls harder in the mid-range, but what really stood out to me was how smooth and responsive the throttle feels at low RPM. It's less agricultural than older Boxers, less vibration through the bars, more refined without losing character. I kept asking myself, is this still the rugged GS we all know? Because BMW didn't just tweak the engine, they redesigned the frame. The bike feels narrower between the knees. When I imagined long days on mixed terrain, that slimmer feel actually made more sense than the old wide tank design. Here's the misconception. People think bigger GS equals better long-distance comfort. I don't fully agree. Comfort isn't just about seat padding or wind protection. It's about how much effort the bike demands from you over 500 miles. The R1300 GS feels lighter in transitions. It changes direction easier. That reduces fatigue in ways spec sheets don't show. And then there's the tech. BMW loaded this thing with features. Adaptive ride modes, radar-based cruise control, updated suspension logic. At first, I thought it might be too much. Adventure bikes are supposed to feel mechanical and raw, right? But after thinking about it more, I realized something. Technology isn't the enemy of adventure. Bad implementation is. On the R1300 GS, the electronics feel integrated, not intrusive. The adaptive suspension doesn't make the ride numb. It actually keeps the bike composed when road surfaces change. That's useful in the real world, especially if you're switching between highways and broken back roads in the same day. Still, I do have doubts. The new design is sharper, more aggressive, less classic GS. Some riders love the industrial, almost mechanical look of the older models. The 2026 version feels more modern and angular. I'm not fully convinced everyone will connect with it emotionally. And that matters, because the GS has always been more than numbers. It's a symbol. For many riders, it represents crossing continents, riding through mud, camping under the stars. Does the R1300 GS still carry that spirit? I think it does, but in a different way. Instead of feeling like a heavy-duty tractor that can survive anything, it feels like a precision tool built to handle anything. Subtle difference, but important. It's less brute force, more calculated performance. One practical takeaway most people overlook: seat height options and ergonomics matter more than ever on this model. BMW offers multiple seat configurations, and if you choose wrong, the bike can feel intimidating. Choose right, and suddenly it feels manageable, even if you're not tall. I noticed that with proper setup, the bike feels less overwhelming than previous GS generations. Another insight: this bike rewards smooth riders. If you're aggressive and abrupt with throttle and braking, it still handles it, but when you ride it fluidly, it feels incredibly balanced. The chassis and engine seem tuned for rhythm rather than chaos. That's interesting, because many adventure bikes try to impress with wild power figures. The R1300 GS feels confident without trying too hard. I also compared it mentally to competitors like the KTM 1290 Super Adventure and Ducati Multistrada. Those bikes feel more dramatic, faster, edgier. The BMW feels more mature. Not boring, just composed. And maybe that's the real story here. The 2026 R1300 GS isn't trying to win drag races or Instagram attention. It feels like a bike designed for someone who actually rides. Long distances, changing weather, unpredictable terrain. Is it perfect? No. It's expensive, it's complex, and long-term reliability of new tech is always a question mark.
Early adopters are basically trusting BMW's engineering confidence. But if I'm being honest, I respect what BMW did here. They didn't just increase displacement and call it a day. They reshaped the experience, made it tighter, smarter, and more refined without completely disconnecting from its roots. The biggest surprise for me? It doesn't feel like a giant adventure bike anymore. It feels like a large, capable machine that shrank around the rider. And that subtle shift might be exactly why the BMW R1300 GS 2026 will define the next decade of adventure riding.